I am Bonneau Ansley, an active real estate agent and founder of Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International, an award-winning Atlanta-based real estate brokerage that did over $3 billion in sales last year.
And I'm Chris Tuff, one of the first advertisers to work directly with Mark Zuckerberg in 2006. I've since gone on to be the best-selling author of The Millennial Whisperer and Save Your Asks.
And this is Brokering Billions. This podcast is about uncovering the hustle, perseverance, mindset, and tricks that are used by the top real estate agents in the country to help you take your business to the next level. In today's episode of Brokering Billions, we're talking to my friend out of Nashville, Tennessee, Josh Anderson. Josh graduated from LSU in trade and finance. Josh served 8 years in the U.S. Army, including a 10-month stint in Afghanistan.
Josh is going to offer up some creative solutions to how we can dominate our local markets with prospecting and some of the events and things we can put into place to really take it to the next level. Please welcome Josh to the podcast.
Man,
let's go.
Here we go. Another great episode. Y'all, we got a superstar out of Nashville, Tennessee today. I'm Bonneau Ansley.
And I'm Chris Tuff.
We're brokering billions here in the headquarters of Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International, and we got a treat for y'all today. This man goes by the name of Josh Anderson. Josh is one of those guys. He's just, I feel he's really detailed. He was in the Army for what, 9 years, Josh?
Yep.
So he's also sold, last year's numbers were about $135 million in volume, runs a team of 7. So we're going to dive in and figure out what makes Josh tick. You know, what we can learn as listeners and agents to see what makes him stand out from the crowd.
Yes. So Josh, I want you to take us from the top and talk a little bit about that transition that you had from, was it how many years in the military? Talk about what it was that you were doing in the military and then your transition
what got you in this business?
into real estate.
So I grew up in Nashville, I lived in Nashville until I was 10, grew up in Louisiana, and I was smart enough to know that I needed to probably go to the military after high school and not straight to college because I probably would have flunked out at LSU. So I did that for a couple years and then did kind of the National Guard route and ended up getting deployed to Bagram, Afghanistan in 2002. So about 6 months after 9/11. And so for a college kid, I was supposed to go to Europe for 45 days with my 2 best friends. So that whole thing was not on my radar. So
that was legit. I mean, that was scary times, right?
Yeah, that was right after 9/11. So we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But I was with a combat heavy engineer unit, and I was a 92 Alpha, which is a supply sergeant. And so we got to support the 101st Airborne and some of the sniper guys. And so it was a pretty cool experience. It wasn't what I was planning on doing that particular summer that turned into a year.
Right.
And so I was graduating and I came back, finished graduating from LSU in finance and economics and worked at an investment bank. And I think I created this idea in my head of what this whole finance degree was going to be. And it ended up not being that at all. Mm-hmm. And so in the meantime, I was getting my real estate license to buy some investment property. And I just kind of went down that route. I quit my job and just became a real estate agent.
So when was that
2006. Josh? April of 2006. I started April 1st, which is a total, April Fool's Day, right?
Yeah.
So what made real estate appealing to you? I mean, so you're doing financing, you're doing spreadsheets, you're in the computer, maybe in a cubicle, whatever. What made real estate appealing? Like, look, I think my skill set is more, serve better being in a real estate environment.
My dad and my grandfather were always buying and selling land. And my mom was kind of taking care of 4 kids, but also kind of a part-time agent. And so I had been exposed to it like a smidge. And I just kind of went down that route because I knew I wanted to buy. And I knew back in 2006 that most millionaires had created their wealth through real estate. And so I wanted to buy some investment properties. And I went down that whole route. And my first year, I think I sold 25 properties. And, it was one of those things. I did my first deal and it was like, I was completely hooked. It was like, it was the lead generation. It was finding the buyers or the seller. It was finding the deals. It was negotiating the deals. The whole thing was like what I would equate to, crack to a crackhead, which is a terrible analogy, but it was like, I was completely hooked. So
do you still have real estate rentals right now?
Yeah, I have 76 doors, all in Nashville. So
wow.
So it's good. I want a whole lot more, just from a mailbox money perspective. So it's a good side hustle.
For our listeners out there, how can you leverage buying rental property to? I mean, it sounds like to me that you've got your signs in front of these places to rent them out and stuff like that. How can you leverage that into, making clients to sell property to?
Yeah. So, most of those properties, and I'll preface that I've missed a lot of opportunities being a real estate agent and looking back on those going, God, I wish I'd bought those properties. But, I've learned be the buyer first and be the listing agent second. But a lot of those properties just fall in your lap as a byproduct of being a real estate agent. We've done, just over the years, we've done a lot of divorce stuff. We've done a lot of people that were upside down on their property. We've done several probate deals. And those people pretty much, I just mentioned those because people have to sell their property.
Sure.
And so it's just a situation where, I was talking to another agent at one point about a property, and she said, hey, well, I said, what else do you have coming on the market? And she goes, oh, I got this 30-unit apartment complex. I said, tell me more. Like, what? She's like, well, I'm putting it on in the MLS later today. I said, no. I said, I need to know what. I was like, tell me about it. And she was like, well, it's 30 units over on Lebanon Pike. It's $1.9 million. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I said, hey, I'm going to have an offer for you before the end of the day. She never put it in MLS. I bought it. I wish I could recreate that deal like 8 times over.
Do you ever feel that you buying competes with your clients at all?
It could in certain scenarios, but, we work with a lot of investors, a lot of people buying Airbnbs, and it's never been an issue. I'm not really competing against them. I'm finding properties off market that, if it doesn't work for me, all of our clients that are investors have a little bit different of a formula as far as what their kind of buy box is that fits their parameters. And so, it's one of those deals that those have all kind of fallen in my lap. And one of the things that I've really worked on is kind of working more an investor division or having a separate company set up to do that. And it kind of funnels the listing side of the business anyway.
Is that bigger than your core business? Are your properties
not
bigger
yet
than your?
It will be. It's not, but it will be.
I was going to say.
And I just think it's a good way of, another thing, like we've created a construction company out of that. We're like, an apartment complex away from starting a property management company because of how many fees we're paying to a property manager right now. And so there's all these ancillary businesses that are being created out of other things that we're doing.
Well, and you also have the advantage of, I was taking, and this was like, I don't even know, 4 years ago, pre-pandemic. And I was flying into Nashville, and the person sitting next to me and said, do you know how many people are moving to Nashville every single day? It's like 3 of these plane, and it was a big plane. And I was like, that's crazy, right? And then you look at the market conditions of what happened. And I was just in Nashville last week for business, and I was talking to the bartender about like what has created this, right? I think it was obviously COVID fueled, right? As people were looking at options for where it was that they could work and actually afford a larger piece of property. And it was the fact that that there was just so much entertainment happening there, and it's a good place to raise a family. And so talk a little bit about what you've seen in the last 4 4 or 5 years. I would guess your investments are doing all right.
Yeah. And so a lot of this started before COVID, and COVID just really accelerated for the Chicagos and the LAs and New Yorks and places like that. I just got back
exit from those markets.
Right. And coming into this market going, wow, this is what I can get for $1 million or $2 million. And, it's not as good of a deal as it was 3 or 4 years ago, but it's one of those, we're seeing 110, 115 people a day moving here. And a lot of it is like, we've got the hospitality, we've got the entertainment, we've got manufacturing. You've got companies like Oracle that just made a massive announcement over the last year. They're redeveloping the East Bank in East Nashville. You've got Amazon that's done a couple of different, not headquarters, but big warehouses, as well as a office space here. You've got Alliance Bernstein out of New York that came here 3 or 4 years ago. So you've got some pretty big companies, and we're not like a Detroit where we've just got one industry. We've got our hospitals are like, we're hospital capital of the country.
Right.
And so it's things like that, and the music scene. And we're starting to pull from Palo Alto and from Austin, Texas. We're pulling the technology stuff.
Sure.
So we're starting to kind of be a hub for a lot of different things, and it's kind of cool to watch.
I would guess the real estate,
it's moving.
The number of real estate agents has increased dramatically as well.
How many agents are in your marketplace?
So we've got like 22,000. 7 years ago, we had like 7,500, and that's for all. Kind of like greater Atlanta. That's for all of Middle Tennessee. And so it's tripled essentially.
So what do you say is your best attribute where out of those 22,000 agents, how do you get people to call you?
I think it's probably a combination of things. I think one of them is our marketing. I think we do a really great job on social media and just marketing in general. Kind of like your group does. I mean, you guys do a phenomenal job in Atlanta. I think one of the other things is we're probably more consultants and more advisors rather than realtors. And what I mean when I say that, I think when people go to their financial advisor, they're looking for advice on the right things to do and educating them. And I think we're more about that than just selling a property or making a commission. And I think that, we probably lose some deals because of it, but I think overall we get a lot of referrals because of that. And the majority of our business is referral based.
Josh, out of that 135 million you sold last year, how many transactions is that?
So that was 259 transactions.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. So I want to dissect those marketing dollars quickly. Josh, So, I mean, I think for a lot of agents listening, marketing is a daunting task, and they tend to check boxes, right? They're like, Instagram, I'm doing a couple ads here. How is it that you're approaching kind of that marketing landscape without getting overwhelmed, right? What are you prioritizing in terms of your time and money?
I think one of the things is probably having the right people in place. So having a director of marketing and having a director of operations and having a listing manager and just different things in there. But a lot of our business so like 70 to 75% of our business is some type of referral. So, we made about $1 million in gross commissions last year from agent referrals around the country. So boutique brokerages, Keller Williams offices, just all the different brokerages. We just, we've been on a lot of panels. We've been on Zoom calls. I've been on stage with Gary Keller. And so I take that offline and bring it online with regard to our marketing, and then following up with people. So that's one piece, is kind of our agent referrals. The other piece, that's the big piece, is just our past clients and our sphere. So, we do a lot of giveaways online. If you get on our Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that we do a pretty good job of consistently doing giveaways and or client events. And so our client events are sometimes family-friendly client events. Sometimes they're date night only. Sometimes there's all kinds of things. Do Titans, Predators, and then we segment it out. Like we put we might have I do a dinner party at my house every year for about 50 people, which is like my top 25 clients. I spend $15,000 or $20,000 on this event, and it's insane. I mean, people are like, how do I stay on this list every year? And I said, well,
Yeah.
it just requires referrals.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's pretty simple, right?
Do you have a line item budget of marketing entertainment that you go by every year, or do you just spend when you need to spend?
I'm pretty dialed in on like our budget model of what it looks like. It's different every year based on kind of our volume, or sometimes it is a little bit out of whack based on what I do or what initiatives we're trying to create. If we're trying to be really heavy on YouTube and creating videos, we might be a little bit out of whack one year because we're trying to do that, or creating this investment division in a separate company. Those are going to be dollars that are being funded by our retail business to create this investment division.
So of those marketing dollars, what in your eyes, what is like the biggest no-brainer ROI?
Biggest no-brainer ROI, probably client events. Because every time we do a client event, and when I say client events, we have segments again there. Like we have our top 25 referral sources that we do stuff with. Then we have like other events that like we're going to do maybe something along the lines of like pictures in the park where everybody gets pictures taken, and it's just really simple. Or we do, pictures with Santa or something like that. And that's just for everybody. And then we also have, we do a certain amount of like micro events or community events. So we're pretty visible with regard to like, I have a nonprofit, and our nonprofit can fund, we take a certain $100 from every one of our closings, and we fund our nonprofit, and then we go do things in the community for those nonprofits. And we typically don't just give them money. We go do something like with our contractors to fix up a house, or we go get a table or two at a certain event that we want to, that's important to one of the agents on our team or something along those lines.
That's awesome.
You mentioned a bunch of different people. You mentioned a director of operations, a listing coordinator, those type of things. Can you break down your team and how that team works? There's so many listeners out there that want to start a team. They're an individual agent. Maybe they have one assistant, and they want to go into the team aspect, which is a growing facet of a lot of the agents. Can you break down how your team works?
10 agents on the team. And then we've got director of operations, transaction coordinator, listing manager, director of marketing. We always have interns from the local colleges. Some of those stay on with us. Some of them are tasked for certain projects. We have 2 inside sales people. So they call our inbound and outbound leads that are coming in. So they don't really touch our referrals, like agent referrals or anything like that, but they're any sign calls from listings we have or anything like that. And then we've got 3 virtual assistants in the background, just kind of doing either data entry or Google Docs, or helping with something in the background that we might not be able to justify like an in-house person to do.
That's a big team. So that's about 7 people on staff then, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they salary?
Almost, yes. All of them are on some type of salary, and then a couple of them have bonus structures as well. So like our director of operations might have a bonus structure quarterly or at the end of the year based on, looking at our P&L statements and cutting expenses. Whereas, we just brought on somebody that I don't like the title director of sales, but he's essentially like recruiting agents for us and training them. And so he'll be paid a salary plus an ongoing bonus or commission that would be on the number of agents that he brings in and the number of transactions each of them do.
So your real team size is 17 or 18 people, right? You've got 10 producing agents. Break down how the producing agents work. So they're all under the Josh Anderson team.
Right.
Did they go and, kill their own business, and then you put them under the mechanism of the team where the listing coordinator, the closing coordinator will help those 10 agents as well, so they get benefit? And how do you pay those people, like split wise, where you get something off the top?
Yeah. So I actually, they bring in a little teeny tiny amount of sphere business. Honestly, I want to provide all the administrative, I want to provide all the salaried positions, and I want to provide all the leads. And that's kind of evolved over time. I would love for them to bring in more business, but historically we've provided 90%. 9 out of 10 deals come from us.
Wow.
And that's just, and that's probably not sustainable long-term, but that's what we've done. And so I really don't cherry pick, but there are relationships that I have that, I've got, a guy at, let's just say, William Morris Endeavors or CAA that, has Darius, or they've got Titans players or Preds players or whatever it is. And I'm going to service that particular deal. Whereas internet, sign calls, agent referrals are going to be given to somebody else.
So would you say that you're
that
working
are more than
10% of, personally of your transactions and volume, and then the other 10 agents are working the other 90%, and then you're pulling the strings and being the CEO of your company, your team, and working with maybe 10% of the folks?
It's probably 10% of the number of transactions, but it's probably 25+% of the volume.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what your effective percentage rate? So if $100 comes in gross commission, right? You pay your salary people, you pay your agents, their sort of cut. Do you know your effective number? Are you bringing in 60% net after you pay anybody? Is it 40%? Is it 50%?
We're about 42%.
That's interesting. So listeners out there, I want y'all to understand.
Not exact, but about.
I want y'all to understand that he's about 42.6%. I love that you're dialed in with your numbers. I think that a CEO of a team / company, being able to know that is very impressive. So $100 comes in, right? He pays Keller Williams or whoever his brand is with a certain percentage. He backs down the salaries. He pays the agents out, and whatever's split is whatever's left is the take for the company, which is your split. So your effective is about 42%. That's cool.
Yeah.
So Josh, I for listeners out there that are aspiring to be the Joshes in their market and they've struggled with this scaling up thing, what in your eyes, who's the first hire that those people should be thinking about right now?
Is it a listing coordinator position? Is it a
administrative? No question. Yes. I don't know that it's the listing person, because I don't think early on you're that defined in your business. I think it's an admin, executive assistant. Some people, it really depends on the person. Like, I talked to a lady that, she was going through a divorce when she did her first hire, and her first hire was a personal assistant because she needed to be able to justify lead generation. And she had that lady go pick up her kids from school and did some of those tasks. So it really depends. If it's just a normal situation, it's not. I see too many people just bring on a buyer's agent, and it's like, well, who's going to service the back end and support and do all the things? It's always an admin person first. Even if it's a virtual assistant, even if it's a part-time assistant, 20 hours a week. If I can take 20 hours a week and use those 20 hours to go lead generate and shake hands and go to lunch more and justify it, it's going to bring in the dollars. And so the problem is most agents go get an assistant and then they go do busy work, or they take off early and go play golf, but they're not being strategic about how they're getting business coming in consistently, in my opinion.
Do you inspire to be, a level 7 at Keller Williams, where you're actually not meeting and talking to any clients out there? You're just having your team generate, and you can go off for a month and have leads come in. Director of sales shifts those leads to one of your 10 agents. Your closing coordinator takes it to the closing line. I mean, do you inspire to do that? I mean, I know there's not that many probably level 7s. We had Mark Spain on the podcast several weeks ago. Obviously he's a level 7 if he was still at Keller Williams.
He's like a level 74.
No, you're exactly right. But is that something that you want your team to do one time, or do you still love being out there and using your skills on how you built this team to go and, sign up a listing or go make a sale?
It's definitely evolved over time. I would say my generic answer to that is, first of all, I don't really believe in the whole level 7. I get it, but I'm not really into all that. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to eventually get out of production, but I think if I got out of production, I would miss it a certain amount. But if I got out of production, I would still be recruiting or training or doing business development, I would be bringing in business. It's not like I'm going to go live somewhere else. Like, I don't think that's a sustainable model. Like, if I got out of business tomorrow, if you're just asking me that, I would be the business development guy. I would be going around to builders and, I'd spend a lot more time out rather than at my office doing phone calls. I'd be meeting people a lot more.
I mean, there was
just because I think that's where I convert at the highest.
There was a time, Josh, when you were probably considered just a good agent, right? You might have had 1 or 2 people on your team. When did that mindset shift to say, all right, I want to go from being a good agent to being a dominant Nashville agent and close over $100 million a year? When did that happen? And when that happened, what did you do differently with your team?
I think I knew that my first year in the business, before I had a team. And I don't say that like I'm being humble, but I'm being honest with regard to, the agent community really doesn't work that hard. And I knew when I was the first agent at the office every day and the last one to leave that I was going to be just fine in this business. Now, I was unproven talent, so I couldn't really say anything until like year 3 when I just started really kind of doing, like, people were like, okay, this guy's not messing around. And then I got to maybe year 5 in the business. I think I came back in September of 2011. I came back from one of Keller Williams' conferences, and Gary was talking about this idea of a showing agent. I mean, I'm sure there were people doing it, but it wasn't a formal thing. And I started implementing that in 2011. And it was probably the most pivotal thing that I did in my business with regard to where people get the most bogged down or bottlenecked is showing properties. Because you can get stuck showing properties in Atlanta and drive all over the place and get stuck in traffic and all the things. And if you've got a showing partner that can show the properties while you can write the offers and negotiate the offers and lead generate more, that's where my business really kind of took off next level.
I think that's cool. I'll tell you, my pivotal moment was when I got somebody to answer the phones. And when I took my cell phone number off the signs and off the MLS listings, and when people called in to go look something, went to my scheduling person, and my scheduling person would then set the appointment with the seller, with the buyer's agent, and connect it, and then schedule it with my showing specialist. And I got rid of all that, which gave me a lot more time for business development.
We fumbled on that showing agent, showing partner model in the first 3 or 4 transactions because we didn't have anybody to call up and go, how do you do this? What scripts do you use? How do you package it? And so we fumbled on it. And then once we got it, we nailed it. I mean, my buyer's agent at the time did 110 transactions in a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Josh, talk to us about the importance around values in a mission and what that means to you and the foundation of your business that you've built.
I think when we got clear on what our core values were for the company is when our company really changed. And when we got just from the standpoint of once we figured those out at a high level and could start kind of not really marketing them, but saying them publicly and like living by them, is when we could get into business with certain types of people, and we could really quickly know whether somebody had integrity or they were an accountable type person, or they were interested in giving back, give where you live, give back to the community. So there's things like that I think when you live by those things, it kind of filters things out and makes it all easy.
And you came up with those with your team. Is that correct? That's what it sounds like.
I came up with it with my leadership team.
With your leadership. Got it. Awesome.
Yeah, it's too hard to get if you put a deck of cards out that are core value cards and you try to get that with 10 people, it's just you're never going to come to the top 5 or the top 3 or whatever it is. So we sat down with the leadership team. It was me and 2 other people and just said, what's really important? And we literally went off-site to my farm, and there might have been a little bit of bourbon involved too, but it was really just sitting down and going, like, interrogating why this might or might not be a core value for us. And I think that's important to do.
So I love taking a team off site. What other things do you during the week with your team? Do you have weekly team meetings? Are they in person? Are they on Zoom? How often do you get together as a team? Is it a structured meeting that's the same every week?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just be completely transparent. Our team comes in every day. And so we see each other, we ring the bell, we high five, we hang out. We have a happy hour tomorrow. We had a team meeting today. Every Wednesday are our team meetings. We might have a Zoom meeting with our agent around the country that's doing something at a high level. We have, in the last 6 or 8 weeks, our market's changed. So we've had an appraiser come in 2 weeks ago. And we've got some new agents on the team. So we're talking about creative financing. I mean, we have people on the team that they don't know what a home warranty is, and they don't know, because they didn't have to write it in the last 2 years. There was no writing anything into a contract.
Right.
They don't know what certain types of loans, or like what exactly is creative financing or seller, so it's re-educating everybody to make sure we're all on the same page. We're all walking the same, talking the same, and it's a lot of work. And I think the only way all that stuff happens and being scalable is by systems and models. Mm-hmm. Models are cool because you can kind of copy and paste and put your own little spin on them. I could have a great conversation with Beno, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing this. And I go, man, I'm going to rip that off and duplicate it and do it the Anderson Group way. And that's what everybody in our industry does. And it's okay. Why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to?
Well, I love the fact that you're bringing, one of the things that I work with a lot of organizations around is this newfound demand as of the last handful of years around people's really wanting continuous learning in the workplace. And it's one thing to send people off to a conference where they get all excited and then nothing happens. And it's another thing to bring them into your own organization on an ongoing basis that people can actually start scratching that itch, because we all have that, right? We all want to develop. And I love that you're getting creative about it. It's awesome.
That's so cool.
One of the cool things about our industry is, like, there's so many different angles and so many different ways to run a really successful business. I mean, I talk to other agents around the country all the time, and I'm just like flabbergasted by all the cool things that they're doing that I would never be able to do in my business to make money or to, have 5-star whatever from clients. But there aren't many other industries. If you go talk to other small business owners in Atlanta or other places, there aren't a lot of other industries that have the amount of information and access that we could go teach to other business owners. I mean, I'm mind blown by the amount of small business owners that just don't have access to certain things. So it's kind of cool.
I love it.
That's really cool.
Well, how do you want to leave listeners today, Josh? I mean, I feel like we've learned so much. We've had, I don't even know how many of these interviews, and every time we walk away with a new take.
I got a question for Josh. So if you're a new agent, Josh, and we've got a lot of them listening today, what's the one thing or the one characteristic that they need to have and embrace to become a great agent in their marketplace?
Grit.
Yes, I love it.
I think people have to have grit, and I think they need to move away from the shiny objects, and I think they need to get back to the basics, because the basics work you can always build on the foundation of basics and get creative. You can't be creative and then bring the basics on top of that. So I think for me, when we're talking to our team, there's 6 things. There's mindset, there's database, there's scripts, there's knowing your numbers, there is lead generation, and there's time blocking. And those are the 6 things we train on.
Well,
because
You saved that zinger for the end. That was pretty good, Josh.
You have been awesome with us
I
today,
love it.
man. Thank you so much for your time and your
Absolutely.
wisdom. We loved it. That was a great
So good.
podcast.
So good.
I'm Beno Ansley.
I'm Chris Tuff.
Signing off. Have a great day.